Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 7EDU webinar on SAT, ACT, PSAT, strategies for choosing and taking the right one. My name's Laura, and I am just going to tell you a few things before we get underway. The first thing I'm going to do is introduce our panelists. Tonight we have Ms. June Liu and Dr. Yan Liu. Ms. June is founder and CEO of 7EDU. She is very passionate about education. Her experience dates back 19 years when she discovered her love for coaching students, particularly college-bound students, for their college planning. June strongly believes that effective test-taking strategies can save students time for things they are passionate about. She's helped more than 30,000 students improve their SAT, ACT English scores, with many receiving perfect scores. Dr. Yan is co-founder of 7EDU. She is a tenured college professor, former postdoc at Stanford University, and data scientist at Coursera. She also has a strong passion for education, especially when it comes to helping students realize their full potential and increase not only their test scores, but also their problem-solving skills. More than 80% of Dr. Yan's students achieved perfect scores in SAT math and ACT math and science. Okay, so with that, I will hand it over to Ms. June.
And hi, everyone. And actually, we have been not talking about this for a long time because of COVID, everything. I'm so happy today we're here together to actually talk about this question. And actually, we have been asked a lot of questions like this. Hopefully today you can get all your answers. And thank you, Dr. Yan, for your time. And we just want to quickly go through everything. So I believe there are a lot of like the first timers, and a lot of students may wonder and which question, which test. And actually today we're going to prepare a lot of information, and we also have some like important test strategy in the end of today's seminar. So stay there and stay with us. You will get all you want today. Okay, hopefully today we can solve all the questions, you know. Okay, so the agenda, I'm going to skip this part. Basically, we want to figure out SAT, ACT score, you know, does this still matter? So we want to talk a little bit about the college planning, the college application strategy. And we're also going to analyze this several tests, the PSAT, ACT, SAT. And we also want to talk about how the test like designed. And in the end of the part, we're going to talk about how to maximize the score with a short period. I have some secret I'm going to share today. Okay, I promise. Okay. All right. So, and then the QA session, hopefully you can ask me questions. Okay. All right. Let's start it. Okay. So first of all, and let's start from here. So I think everybody knows about the college like application, the college prep stuff. We know college essay, we know direct letter, we know stuff, but SAT, ACT actually become a myth. Okay, so many of the parents joined different seminar, they got a different suggestions, and they got confused. So let's say every conference or seminar you joined, you got a different opinion, you got a different answer. If I were present, I'm gonna go nuts, right? So SAT, yes or no? Okay, so who's gonna ask the question? So just can you just type your answer? If you say yes, we need SAT, ACT, type 1 in a chat box. If you was like no, we don't need it, type 2 in the chat box. So let's see how many of us we can. Okay, we get a 1, we get a 1. Okay, so we got a lot of ones. Oh, clever parents. We have a parents who knows the truth. Okay, who knows? Okay, I'm so glad that we say 1. Okay, great. So if you still doubt about it, so let's think about it. So COVID changed a lot of things, include the test prep. Many test centers closed. And actually college board canceled around 20 tests in the past 2 years. And because of that, no college dared to say, hey, you need to take a test. Well, I can't because there's no test center open, right? So, but if we look at the college admission result, especially this year, we can see students who were admitted by the top colleges still have their good SAT, ACT score. So let's look at the MIT's admission rate. All right, Dr. Yi, you want to analyze a little bit here?
Yeah, so just like June said, we're so happy that we're back to this topic. And in fact, if some parents are following news, and especially the educational news, you know that back in this March, just about actually less than 2 months ago, MIT just made an official announcement that they will require SAT for the coming year. And so SAT, ICT becomes one of the requirements when students apply for MIT. So you can take a look. If you get, for students, if you get 750 or 800 in the English part, and then in the same range for the math, and your chance of getting into MIT is, how do I say, 10 times if you get a much lower score in the range. Yeah, so that does show that students who have a higher chance of getting admitted into MIT, if they are prepared, if they get higher scores in the standard test.
Okay.
So I think the parents who agree that the kids should take SAT, you should be happy with the results, right? The efforts will actually help them and help them reach the higher score, a higher school.
Yes, and this is the news that Justin just mentioned, right? If you look at it, you will see that on the website of the MIT, the admission part, they says they require SAT, ACT. And actually we interviewed the admin officer, and then it says like, because many students, they didn't submit their SAT, ACT, it's really hard for them to tell which student has the academic capacity that could be able to handle the MIT, the 4-year study. That's part of the reason they want to zoom back. And so far, this is the only one top school, famous school, and make the announcement like this. And let's wait and see for the coming year. We believe there will be more school going to follow the MIT's trend. Yeah. So if we look at the average SAT score for the top colleges, so we understand that where we are now. And so most of students, we want them to aim like a list of 1,550 above. Yeah. So now we just go through very quick to the normal question about SAT, ACT to answer some of the question like often asked by many of the students and the parents. Which test can contribute more to college admission? Which test is right for this kid? Which test is easier? Which test can get a higher score? Which score for which test sounds better? And we will actually analyze the two tests. So I'm sure you will have all your answer today, okay? So let's just compare the SAT, ACT structure first. So when we look at the two structures, okay? So we see the SAT no longer require any essay, and the ACT, the essay become optional. So we start from the backwards, okay? So SAT total 3 hours, ACT 3 hours, 35 minutes. Because of the optional essay, if you want to take it. The science part, SAT has no science part, ACT has a science part. Okay, so if you're strong in science, probably you want to think about ACT. And, but for the reading section and the math section, Dr. you want to explain this part?
Yeah, so the reason we include not only the sections, but also the average time the student have per question is to show you that even both tests have math section, but you actually can see students have longer time for each problem in math, in the SAT math, simply because the questions are much longer in SAT than in the ACT. So in ACT, you really have to do problems very, very fast without too much thinking. Therefore, students who are actually more slowly paced, or they are more comfortable with giving more time to think, and then they should go for SAT. If a student is just a fast thinker, but it's kind of careless, and they probably want to go for ACT. And yeah, so that's what the main difference between math. The SAT math problems are much longer than the ACT math.
Yeah, if you look at the writing section, which is the English, it's really confusing. Is in ACT it's called English, in SAT it's called a writing, but it's not an essay, okay? So 35 minutes, 47 seconds for each question. And you have 36 seconds per each question, 45 minutes, 75 questions. So you can tell like the SAT, they give more time for students to think. ACT, you need to just fast, react, fast and looking fast. So for SAT reading section, 1 minute, 15 seconds for each question average. And for ACT, 52 seconds. That's a lot of difference. So for the SAT students, most likely they told me if they can't get the right answer, they would just tell me, I don't understand, or I just couldn't tell which one is right. But for ACT, most of the mistake is just because I don't know where it's at. I can't find it, you know, and you show them which line and they just find it. I mean, we don't need to explain them about the answer. You just need to tell them which line. So I feel very bored when I coach my students for ACT. I just told them to open your eyes, find it, read faster, you know. So basically for the strategy part, I would say SAT require more, I would say deeper understanding about reading and has like solid foundation. ACT is more like a lot of practice making familiar and react a little bit faster. Yeah, if you look at it in this structure way. So let's look at how to maximize the score. And for SAT part and ACT part. And we just combine together for the writing and the math and ACT science speed. By saying that, we're saying if you are good in the grammar and if you're good at math and you can get a full score, you can nail SAT. However, if you're good in science and you are fast test taker, and you can go for ACT. Well, just like in theory, of course, you have to take mock test. And actually tomorrow, we are going to offer on-site and online free mock test for both SAT, ACT. So welcome to go to office in Cupertino. And if you want to know the address, you can look at the website or look at the Google 7EDU. So we offer free mock test to see the difference between two tests. So welcome to take advantage, just come, just bring the kids, come. And also I know they finished the AP, so I think many of them, they are able to come to take the short version. So this is the how they score. And actually by showing you this, we can tell and which one actually is easier. It's easier to get the score, okay? So for SAT, we want to make sure the writing and getting 400, which is the full score, and a math, we get 800, that's already 1,200. But reading, you only need to take 300, you can get a 1,500 above. What does it mean by 300? That means you are going to miss at least 5 to 7 questions. Yeah, you can make mistake like that in the reading section if you look at how they score the reading section part. And by ACT, you need to get the science 35, reading 35, and I think that's easier for you to get the perfect score. And that score is from our students who got a perfect score. So we just want to show you the possibility. So how to compare, Dr. Yan? What do you think? Like for SAT and compared to ACT, many of the parents want us to give the comparison. Let's say it's kind of like try to change a dollar into the euro, you know?
Yeah. So
in SAT equals how much in ACT? Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, like both tests have composite scores, right? But if you notice the difference, if you pay attention to the difference between the two, in terms of how the composite scores are calculated between the two tests, SAT, the composite score is the sum, is the total of all the scores, and the AC is the average. And therefore, if you look at the screenshot here, and the student actually didn't get perfect score in all the sections, but by taking the average, the student still get the perfect, get 36, which is actually 35.5 and round up to 36. So it's easier to get a perfect score in ACT than SAT, because in SAT, if you just make one mistake, it's no longer 1,600. If you look at percentage of students who get perfect score in SAT, it's very, very slim. But compared to ACT, it's easier, and the higher percentage of students get a perfect score in ACT. Of course, it doesn't mean ACT is the better test for every student. Like I said, if your student really is not a fast thinker, or the student really feels the pressure, if the test has to go very fast and becomes very nervous, and ACT is not a test for the person. And also the other side of the point is that ACT, if you're getting a 35, it's of course considered a very good score. But in terms of students who got ACT 35, we actually have a lot of students getting 35, 36. Yeah, so it's easier to get 35, 36 in ACT than 40, 15, 50 above in SAT.
By saying that, you can think about it. If you're a fast test taker, you can take ACT, get a pretty good score, let's say 34 above. That's pretty good for you, right? However, if you're a strong test taker, you can take SAT. If you get a 1,500, let's say 80, 90, or even 1,006, like 1,600, right? That shows more competitive than ACT. Yeah, if you compare like apple to apple like that way. And if you look at the ACT, there is a little bit like advantage for ACT because SAT cancel the essay part. So there is no way for you to show your essay ability, right? So if you're a strong essay writer, I recommend you to take ACT with essay because that's the opportunity for you to show your essay skill. Yeah. So this is the percentile for the total score, and you can tell already. And that's part of the reason we want to see, like, you know, so actually 1,490, 80 actually. Oh, now it's going to 50. 1,450 is going to be 99 percentile. If you go to 1,520, it's 99 percentile as well, but it's like plus, right? So what is called a good score? Many students and parents ask us, right? So I would say if you want, I mean, it depends on your dream school. If you want to go for the top schools, and I would say most of your candidates, they're having at least 1,550 above, right? So the better, the higher, the better, of course, yeah. But you don't need to spend a lot of time working on your test prep, okay? Just be clear. If you want to take a lot of tests and you want to keep repeating, taking again and again, that's not a good idea. So before we suggest like no more than 3 times. And now because of the competition, we suggest less than 2 times. So basically the ideal case, you just take 1 time, you get your perfect score, you get your best score, that's it. Okay, that's the best plan. And later I'm going to talk about when to take it. All right. So this is just one of example to show you how to get the good score. Okay, so we are also going to talk a little bit more about you know, the numbers. So you can tell that. So 58, which is like 800, like Dr. Yan mentioned, if you want to get a full score, you need to have a no mistake, which is very competitive. That's why SAT score is competitive because of that. Yeah. All right, so let's just go to the ACT part. Like Dr. Yan just summarized, if you want to have a better score, ACT actually is easier. That's why many of the students' scores squeeze together into 34 above. Squeeze together. I barely know anyone from my students less than 32, more than 35. They squeeze into 32, 33, 34. They squeeze there, okay? Just let you know, that's our experience. So conclusion, math, full score, no mistake. Writing, no mistake. Reading 300 plus, you will really easy to get a good SAT score, average, okay? All right, so now we want to talk a little bit more about the successful case, okay? So this is one student who got a full score, and I remember it's a very competitive students from a private school, and even the English part is so solid, but the writing section, which is the grammar part, always has 1 to 3 mistakes, 1 to 3 mistakes. So we got a lot of like practice, and we give specific practice to the students. I remember she was struggling with the like the adjectives and comma, period, structure like that, like all the detail stuff. And every time she told me it's a careless mistake. And I told her there is no careless mistake. That's how they designed. They just want to see, they just want to test you about the grammar, by going through all the grammar rule. And I feel like, her essay, her grammar, and her English overall is like improve a lot. And eventually she got 1,600 on the March test. I think that's great. So we also got another student, 1,500, and that student actually took 2 times of SAT. And her struggle part is like a math part. So you can tell like the math affects her a lot. So if she get like, full score, she get a better chance, higher score, right? So this is just like to show you, most of parents, when they come to us, they say, hey, we just need to improve the English part. But many of them feel like the English part is the hardest one, the math part is easiest one. But you have to really make sure you get a full score in math, because this is students just only focus on the reading and writing. But eventually she lost more score in the math part. She thought she would get a full score, but she didn't. And this is another example here. And but this student is quite special. I want to show you this students because actually she started as a boy. He started as less than 1,000. So when I saw the raw score at the first time, I was like, wow, what's your goal? It was like more than 1,200 is my goal. But actually we improved him to 1,400. So that's like the biggest improvement in the shortest time. And later we will show you how we made it happen. Okay. So there are common challenges of SAT, ACT: limited time, difficult question, fall into traps. All right. So limited time, I think Dr. Yan had things to share. I remember Dr. Yan mentioned that give every student 30 more minutes, everybody gonna get a better score.
Yeah, I think kids who grow up here don't have experience of taking such a long test. Both tests actually 3 hours long at least, right? Even if you don't take essay in the ACT section, it's almost 3 hours. And also, I think kids here just don't have enough, haven't done enough practice. And therefore, when they are timed, and then you can see even for SAT, just slightly above 1 minute for a poor question. So kids do feel the stress during the test, and they make all kinds of very silly mistakes. And then, yeah, so our goal is to help them to eliminate those silly mistakes so that they can overperform. Even probably they don't have very strong foundation for the certain subject school, but they can still do well in those standard tests. And then I wouldn't say the questions are so-called difficult in terms of content level, but they are very, very tricky. It's very different. They are very different from the school tests.
Yes. And we also want to, share a little bit like a background information. So the reason why we started, like talking about SAT and we study SAT, well, we have to talk about like back to, let's say 19 years ago, just like Laura just introduced, right? So actually, everybody know me as a counselor. So I'm helping students get into their dream school. But I found out many of them wasting their time struggle with the standardized test. So I have to say, no student love taking tests. I mean, very few. I mean, almost like no. And I used to be one of them. But after I studied the test design in the Cambridge, and I realized that if I can help my students understand how the tests are designed, I can set them free. So that's why, besides college planning, college counseling, Dr. Yan and I created the SAT prep class in 2015, and we helped tons of students getting 1,500 above, and some of the students getting the perfect score, like what you mentioned. So why? Because we cracked the traps. We want them to understand what are the traps, okay? So yeah, focus. That's the secret, starting from here. Okay, so essential component of SAT, ACT that combines content knowledge, task strategy, and a practice. Okay, so eventually, if you get all of them, you will fly. Okay, so there's just a picture to show how you're gonna fly. However, maybe because the students here, like Dr. Yan mentioned, they hate taking practice, or maybe because everybody thinks taking tests is stupid. I don't know why. And many students just to tell me, oh my God, my mom forced me to take it. I hate it, Then when I asked them like, why you hate it? And then they just told me an answer that has surprised me. They told me because everybody hated it, because my teacher told me we don't need to, because they say taking the test is no good for your ability. And at that time, I usually tell my students like, well, you have such great skill set and strong ability, just kind of like show me in this way, it doesn't really hurt, right? I feel like the mindset for a lot of kids is kind of like really afraid of like hardworking, really afraid of, the test. I mean, the funny thing is like all the teachers and counselors, they just kind of like in school tell the students like, no test, right? No standard test. So what they're doing, why they always give the quiz to the students? Why they use the test to give the GPA, right? They should cancel all of that, right? So yeah, so usually when I had a conversation with my students, they understand a little bit better about the logic and the reason behind the test. So that's the story usually we tell the students, like, how are we gonna do it and how are we gonna improve better? So let's just break the first myth. Practice make perfect. I know a lot of parents think about that, right? So they bought the book. The book is like this thick. I have many of them here. My students throw it to me, dump it to me. I have many of them. So when you carry out, literally, I need to bring it, So when you bring out the thick book like this, okay, and pretty much you have to buy at least 2 to 3. You tell me, where are they going to start it? How are they going to start it? And I don't believe a practice make perfect, because when you do practice, the mistakes are repeating. And the question that you can actually do right, you are wasting your time to do it again. So in that situation, I don't really suggest my student to do the practice. Don't do practice unless you know where you are not really good and you want to improve your weakness, okay? That's the time you want to go for practice, okay? So now we're going to talk about how to use the SAT breaks, kind of like the timeline, to give you advantage. This is the timeline that we give to every student, and we want them to understand how to do it. And I suggest the parents to you can screenshot this part and send to your kids, or you can tell them, they can train their practice or their homework or whatever based on the timeline. Because we find out it's like marathon, it's like a relay race. If you don't have your rhythm, you don't have your speed, you lost the control of the time and you lost control of everything. So that's why we want the students to manage time like real, right? So do not trust the kids when they do the practice, they just listen to music at the same time. When there's no music, trust me, they can't choose between A and B anymore. So everything has to be the real. So part of the reason I feel like the standardized test is actually a exhausting test. And why they have to exhaust the students? What do you think, Dr. Yan? Why the tests are designed to exhausting students,
Yeah, it's not just for SAT and actually for ACT as well. Even for students, I know a lot of students are actually pretty good at science, but they make the most mistakes in the science section because they were very tired toward the end. Yeah, I think they just want to find a way to separate students, and they want to choose students who not only know how to take tests and also have the stamina to stay for 3 hours, like stay alert and stay focused for 3 hours. Yeah, just find different ways of selecting students.
Exactly, because they know the student who has higher energy level are easy to survive in the college and will less likely to feel stressful or stress out or burn out if they're physically strong. Okay, so I told my students, in the end, it's not about your intelligence, it's about your physical toughness, All right, so let them to understand the timeline. This is step 1, okay? Step 2, you need to go through the content knowledge, right? So reading skill, I know many students and parents, they know they love reading. They love reading books, they love reading fictions, but doesn't count because in the real test, they test you not only fiction, but also history, science, humanity, everything else. And because of SAT and also all the students who claim that they love reading and they are like bookworm, they are like that. But why they love reading so much, they have been reading for like almost 10, 11 some years, and why they couldn't get a higher score in the reading section. Because of that, we create another series of classes, critical reading and writing, because you are not only reading, but to be able to analyze, interpret those words, those meaning behind the words, between the lines, So when I coach my students for reading section, I realize that a lot of them, their lack of big picture. They finish reading it, you ask them, tell them like what's going on. They couldn't to summarize everything in one sentence. Many of the students struggle in the purpose question. They couldn't tell the purpose. Okay? They just couldn't. And then one of the students just tell me like they struggle with the words in context. And some students, they struggle with details, with evidence. There's so many struggle. That shows their reading skill should be polished. Okay, I think it's a great opportunity for students and parents to go through the content knowledge to boost, to get them ready for the future, for the college. And for the math part, everybody think it's easy, right, Dr. Yan?
Yes, yeah, they think math is easy, but actually not all students get like even 770, and the 770 may only means that the student just missed one problem. Again, I mentioned earlier, and we see this is a difficult test, not in terms of not necessarily the content itself, the knowledge itself is very advanced. In fact, they shouldn't test you very advanced knowledge for the sake of equality. However, they make the problems very tricky. So if you don't read the question carefully enough, or the questions are very long, if you don't understand the questions, and then you won't be able to solve the problems. So we have to get students used to reading very long problems, just like reading becomes reading comprehension. A lot of math problems become reading comprehension. You have to understand the problem.
Yeah, exactly. And so content knowledge, just going through the process for test prep, you also can just kind of like boost your content knowledge. I think it's a great way. I want to give you an example, actually. Maybe Dr. Yin can give another example later. So let's just take a passage as example, right? So many of the students, they don't understand how to take the passage or conversation. They just tell me like, oh, I'm reading it. I was like, can we just break into the essay into the structure? Can we just take it as a conversation? And I remember students just don't get it, So if you look at our critical reading and writing, actually, we have been telling this long time ago. I just told the students, just ignore, whatever on the left, just only pay attention on the right, and you will save tons of time by reading it. That solved a lot of students' question. They say, oh, I can get everything right as long as I have more time. I'm a slow reader. I just cannot get it. Or after they finish reading it, they tell me, I forgot what I read and I have to take the question, go back to look for it. If your kids have the same issue, that means they don't understand how to take the passage as a conversation. They may read the books, they may read like tons of classic books, right? But they don't know how to break the passage as a structure to go through the bone, So that's part of the reason I feel like the test prep actually can help you to understand that part, because with a short time, you are not going to have enough time to go through everything to enjoy. And I also have students just telling me, they say, you know what, sometimes I read the passage twice. I was like, why? She was so cute. She said, because I love the story. I just read it twice. Then I run out of time and I don't have time for the last passage. I was like, are you kidding me? I mean, it's very cute, but think about it. No teacher telling them you cannot read twice because you love the content. You cannot just skip the passage or you don't want to do the question because I'm not interested in the content. So that's part of the reason we have to teach the kids to be logical and to how to crack the test prep and to the time pressure. Okay. So for example, this is a passage we showed in the SAT classes. We told them like whatever on the top doesn't matter. You just only read the bottom. If the evidence shows on top, don't even choose it because there's no way to show up. Those test strategy I learned, in the Cambridge when they learn how to design the test. And I think students should understand that part as well. Okay, so these are another summary for the question types. So I'm just taking reading as example because reading usually is the hardest part for many students. And in a 7EDU create a very special way to crack the reading part. So if you look at a reading question, and many parents, students told me, oh, I missed the 3 questions, 4 and 5 and 10, how to reduce to be 5. Number doesn't make sense. Percentage matters. Why this time you made a 2 mistake, next time you made a 5, or why this time you made 10, next time you made a 5, is because the percentage of the question type changed. So this time, the percentage of the big picture may be 17%, next time maybe 12%. You sounds better, right? You improved. But actually it's not, because you have to figure out the question type that you made a mistake in order to perform stably. And that's the important part. So forget about how many mistakes you made. Just look at the question type you made. For example, I can use 3 hours to improve my students from 5 mistakes to no mistake if he's only making 1 type of mistake. And if you students making 5 mistakes, but 5 different question types, probably the time have to, double or triple. So when we look at the question type, we understand better about the situation. And we will not blame students this time, you make 1 more or one less mistake. All right. So another part that we feel like the top secret is about a self-doubt. So students understand passage, students go to question, and students can eliminate 2 answers very easily. That's step 1, passed. But when it's come to the 2 similar answer choices, many students just choose the wrong one. And the second time, if you ask them to crack it, they just can choose the right one. How many of you guys has the similar situation? You ask your kids to double check the mistake, they say they get it because they just need to choose the other one. And next time, same situation. What's the reason they are getting the similar question and then they choose the wrong one? Because of self-doubt, because they don't understand the true to the point answer, but not the true answer, because they are looking for copycat answers, because they were looking for true but the wrong answer choices. What do you mean true but the wrong answer choices? A little bit more background information, okay? True means like the statement is true. Wrong means they're not going to answer the question. But many students fall into the mistake like this. And the true to you answer, because some students, there's strong opinion and they just say, oh, it's right because I think it's right because, this and that, because my background knowledge, it should be right, right? Well, true to you, but not the answer. And also the extreme answers are sometimes really easy to choose because for high school students, it's about the black and white. But for SAT, they chose the passages from adult. It's more nuanced. So there is no way to give you black and white answer. That's why, okay, no way, right? Many people request a recording. I think the parents should understand first. Maybe you can talk to your kids, right? You become authority. Okay, let's try this way. Also, we may give the students opportunity as well to analyze, one-on-one with them. If they join us, the mock test actually is tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, and we're probably gonna host another round in June when the school finish. Just a request, okay? And we want the kids get the best understanding about themselves, okay? So this question for parents. So this question for parents. So I want the parents to choose one between B and C. I eliminated A and D already. And parents like, oh, I came here for your seminar. You asked me to do the question. What kind of teacher are you? I am. I'm a very strict teacher. I'm sorry about that. Can you choose one and type your B or C? If you're not going to answer my question, you will be kicked out. I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. Can you just choose the answer, please? I am kidding. You're not going to be kicked out, but you have to choose one answer. If you feel like this is too hard, you can just type 1. That means you gave up, Okay, I get a students choose C. I don't know if parents or students. I assume like C. Okay, C. All right. Okay, I had a B. I get a C. Our kids are struggle between these two answer choices. You tell me why B is not right, why C is right. Okay, right, I have to tell you the answer. Yes, C is right. Congratulations. Yeah, okay. Why B is not right? B is true, right? What they're doing the hibernate, right? So why is not B? Our kids feeling so struggle to get the right answer, but not the true statement. You know what I mean? So B and C are both right. But they didn't mention B. You have to just choose C. You cannot just, go step forward. You cannot just go one step forward. A lot of kids struggle with that. This is just like very simple example I want you guys to experience. And actually, I encourage parents to do the SAT prep together with the kids because you don't need to blame your kids like, hey, why this time the score not improved, right? You try. And actually, one of the dad really tried it before, and he got less than 1,400. And after that, the parent relationship with the kids improved a lot. And plus the kids got a very good score. I think that's a good strategy as well. So when should you take the test? That's another question. 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. I didn't include 8th grade because I know many of you want to try 8th grade. And because the reason is not, it doesn't count. So I was asking many of the parents, why you ask your kids to take the test before 9th grade? It's like, oh, I listened to some seminar. They told me to take the test before 9th grade. It doesn't count. What the heck? You take the test doesn't count. Why you take it? What's the purpose? Don't take the test before 9th grade because it doesn't count. If you take a good score, your kids won't prepare in the future because he already take a good score in the 8th grade, right? He assumed he can take a good score later, but that's not the situation. If you take a bad score, you break the confidence and it doesn't count, right? And if you like SAT is so hard, SAT is so hard. So it kind of like could build up some mental, challenge the next time. He will hesitate to take it. So no need to take it. Let him to be afraid. I mean, even I coach my students for the SAT standardized test, but I don't think the standardized test can tell a lot for the kids. And I don't think they should struggle a lot of time on it because they have to save their sake of time for the things they're passionate to do, right? So perfect time depends on the situation. If you need to apply for summer camp before, you probably want to take it at 10th grade. But nowadays, because most of summer camp, they don't even, suggest you take it. So probably you can take it at 11th grade because you don't want to squeeze everything in the end. And you want your SAT score to be fresh, okay? To be fresh. So better to be 11th grade or based on the research or activity plan, but not too early, okay? Not too early. So that's our suggestion. Okay, so another question, which month? Dr. Yan, do you believe like different months has different results?
Well, not really in terms of if the parents are concerned that which month is easier to get a higher score. I think the fundamental question is you want to ask is when your kids will be ready, and because when the students are ready, and then they will get a high score. If the students are not ready, they are not going to get a high score. Even if we take the student take a test during the month that you think may be less competitive, it's very hard. It's a game that is very hard to play. And also you probably try to avoid having kids taking SAT or ACT during the time when they are very busy with the finals. Just again, for the same reason, because they probably don't have enough time to prepare for the test.
Yes. Okay. And the other thing is like, some of the months there's a lot of people to take it, and some of the months there like, less people take it before they have a curve. But now because the spots are so limited and many of the parents reach just at least 2 times the spot, so the curve, well, is kind of like affects like really slightly. By the way, just the test just happened in May, and that test the score just released. Actually, if you look at the test score, they changed the average. They just reduced the 20 in the score. If you got 1,540, you probably become 1,520. I don't know what the college are doing there, but it just like average released the score, and then they just reduced the average because of the curve. Okay, just let you know. So you really want to focus on how much you can get it right. Okay, so how long does it take to prepare the SAT? So we have several options. Option 1 month super duper intensive prep, like this summer. And option 2, 3 months super intensive prep, like when the school started. And option 3, 1 year relaxing prep. That means the earlier, the better. And for example, our critical reading and writing students, they may not need to take any of the SAT prep because their reading is so solid, starting with us from kindergarten until 9th or 10th grade. So you tell me they are solid or not, right? So option 4, no need to prepare. That's what I'm talking about, our students. So just better get them a solid foundation at the beginning rather than rush in the future. I think now if you listen to 7EDU's different seminar, you will understand more about how to prepare them earlier. It's not like we try to juan or we try to be more competitive. We just try to make sure the kids are so relaxed, and get everything down. So the longer, the better. So you want to make sure it's solid. Just don't want to really rush to the end, because many of the school especially elementary school, and they don't really pay attention to the foundations. You just let them to chill, and then select them in the middle school, and chill, and select them in the high school. And in the high school, they even still chill, right? And then select them in the college. That's the whole entire system, how it works. Okay. So let them chill, let them relaxing, but getting longer period. So just really depends on the personality and how the kids handle the stress. Yeah. So Q&A session. Dr. Yan, do you have a question for me?
Yeah, I will leave the question for parents first.
It doesn't look like we have any questions right now, but maybe some are coming. I actually have a question. What if you just want to take both tests? Should you take both tests?
Okay, that's a good one. Well, actually, they asked me like that. So if you take SAT and you didn't get your good score, and most of the time we want them to take a different one, so you don't want to like take one test over again. That's not really good. Yeah. Should you prepare for PSAT and SAT separately? Well, that's the good question. Actually, you remind me, we should include that. So we suggest students to prepare for SAT and are going to take a PSAT. If you prepare for SAT and are going to take the PSAT, you are very likely to qualify the merit scholarship because you are fully ready. PSAT is prepare for SAT, but let's just switch the order. You will feel easier and better. Yeah, so prepare them together, take them together. I know in this fall, many schools are going to offer PSAT to their 10th grader. And that's why some of the students going to prepare their SAT in this summer with us together, because with the August, they're going to, prepare for their PSAT because they're prepare for the SAT. So when the school started, they're going to take PSAT in the fall, and then they're going to take their SAT in the August or November. I think that's the perfect time, and you just nail the two tests down together, and then boom, you don't need to worry about it anymore. Yeah.
Okay, we do have some in the Q&A feed now. Do you have any suggestions for kids under 9th grade? What can they do to prepare?
You have to join our critical reading and writing. It sounds like it sounds like a advertisement, but it's not, because we designed the critical reading and writing based on the different layers, different materials, and also how deep the question. Actually, we combined a lot of reading and writing question with SAT, the questions, how they designed, the purpose, the fiction, the relationship, the structure of the passage. We just try to correct them all. So when the students understand better, it helps them not only the reading, but also the test. So if you're under 9, you're perfect to go through the reading and the writing section. So boost that skill first. And then when you come to test, you don't need to really worry about it. Yeah. It's like one of my students, remember, now he's in UCLA, and he told me before he was taking the SAT with us, and now in the college for the reading section, reading test, that he's still using the same strategy. And he told me exactly he's using the strategy he learned with us when he prepared for the SAT. So that means a lot. Yeah.
I think you covered these. When to take the PSAT? What is the age you suggest for the PSAT?
Some school they offer PSAT in 10th grade. Some of the school they offer PSAT in 11th grade. If your school doesn't offer at all, you have to register by yourself. Okay. So many of the private school offer, even public school these days they offer.
Yeah,
so,
they offer PSAT, but usually public school offer PSAT at the 11th grade. Or the teacher will tell them these are optional. But for our students, we really suggest them to go, because that's a good practice. I mean, for the younger one, like 10th grade. But 11th grade, then you have to treat it seriously, like June said, because at 11th, the PSAT at the 11th grade will qualify you for the National Merit Scholarship, which is a academic award.
yes. So I think it depends on the school. For example, many of the private school, they request the PSAT in 10th grade, just let you know. So if that's the case, if you're rising 10th grade, you have to prepare this summer. And then you're going to take the PSAT and then SAT, and then all together the several months you get the things down. If you're going to take the PSAT in first semester of 11th grade, you prepare the PSAT and the SAT before you're rising 11th grade. Yeah.
Here's another one. Is 1480 on the SAT a bad score?
Sorry, say it again.
Is 1480 a bad score?
It's not bad. Again, the score will related to the school that you want to try. Let's assume you want to get into your dream school, and your dream school is like pretty, highly selective. You better want to take more than that. But if you're kind of like, okay, or you're an art student, you're, different kind of major, it depends on the school, how competitive the admission process, and it's not bad. Yeah. So actually, if it's first time taker, you never prepare, you got this score, actually it's pretty good. Depends on how much effort you made, right? My students made a no effort, no prepare, just wake up, grab a pen, just go to take the test. And then they got the score. Well, that's great. If you prepare a lot and you got this score, I have to ask you who taught you, who helped you for this, probably we have to fix it. So it depends on the effort. Yeah.
Just looking in the chat box, I think what they want to ask is, how does 7EDU SAT prep course compare to others? I think that's what they're asking.
Okay, very different, because we're not going to give you practice, ask you to do it, and then just tell you the mistakes. We're going to do the question types, and we're analyzing the different question types, and we grabbed all the similar question types with different passages together, ask you to do it. And after do that, we divided the passage into different types. We try to sort out like which question type you're not really comfortable with. We give you more specific question based on those question types and the passage types. So it's kind of like trying to mapping your weakness and try to improve. And that's how we give the intensive prep and help you to boost it. Yeah.
Here's another one. What can you do to prepare ninth graders for math? And I don't know if they mean the math section or just math in general, but what can you do to prepare ninth graders for math?
Yeah, okay, so like in reading, SAT reading, students do need to know strategies. And actually we do have students who think they have good reading comprehension, but cannot do well in SAT reading. That's actually quite common. But for math though, it's a more content based. And of course we teach students strategies, how to avoid traps by showing them common tricky SAT math problems. But for SAT math, if you don't understand math, or if you don't have, you have like content hole in your math, of course, no matter what strategy you use, you cannot get a right answer. So our SAT math classes do cover all the topics or contents that you need to know for SAT. Yeah, so basically, if you take our SAT math course, you will learn all the contents that you need to know to do well for SAT math beyond strategies. Yeah, but of course you need to do well in your school math as well, because that's the foundation.
Yeah. I also saw one question say, I've heard parents talk about a 7th grader taking SAT. What do you think? What do I think? I think they're wasting time, because 7th grade taking SAT, the score doesn't count. And like we just mentioned, the 7th grade actually is the perfect age to discover their passion, to sort out their directions, you know, to try some like, you know, something like maybe research, maybe other activities. This is the time to expand their interest. And you don't want to waste the time on the test, the strategy part, and you don't want to prepare them for test. So no need. The only thing the parents want them to take in the 7th grade, well, it's just because parents want it. And they just want to see where they are, maybe. Okay, so what's the purpose to know where they are? 7th grade, I mean, it's too early. A lot of math part they didn't learn yet. A lot of reading they don't understand. I mean, just not yet. So I don't really think you should take it before 9th grade, unless you really want to give it a try. But it's just meaningless. Like what I mentioned, you got a good score. You thought you don't need to prepare anymore, because even in the 8th grade you got a so good score. But it's not a case. It's not a situation. Yeah, it cannot guarantee you're gonna get a good score later. On the other hand, like if you take a bad score, I'm more concerned about a bad score, because confidence is the most important core for the future success of the kids. So you always want them to feel confident, and you don't want them to feel like, bad about it, right? So what's the purpose? Don't take it. If they're good enough, they have a different way to do it. Test is just only small element of the whole entire college prep. So the reason why we prepare them, because we want to save their time. We want them to save their valuable time to do something different. Don't waste their time to just struggle with the test 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. Doesn't make sense. That's why we jump out to help them. Yeah.
Okay, I think we have just a couple more, and then we can show the QR codes for summer classes and the weekend classes this weekend. What is the best grade to attend your critical reading and writing class?
Okay, I think for critical reading and writing, you need to take a test. We have evaluation, for the students, like the assessment helps students understand where they are, by doing that, and we enroll you in the system. So, and then you join a different level of the class. Some of students, maybe they're still young, but they join like higher level. Some students, maybe they're like old enough, but they are still in the younger level. So it really depends. For critical reading writing program, there's another potential privilege, I would say. We have many of the students join the Scholastic essay competition or New York Times competition. They got a gold key, they got it published. We have a lot of great outcome because of this program. I love this reading and writing. Yeah. So, and even those students who come up with the program in the college application part, we feel so relaxed for their college essay. They're just wonderful writers. Yeah. So I think we should make more kids to be a wonderful writer. And I know math is important. Sorry, Dr. Yan. Yeah. So, but instead of shooting for the math competition, I more prefer them to be the writer. You know what I mean? right, Dr. Yan?
Yeah,
Now
yeah,
you can
I
debate.
completely agree. Yeah, I completely agree because we do have students. Okay, so I shouldn't like be comparing students with among students, but we do have students like who are all strong in math, but some of them got into top math programs, some did not. I think it's mainly because they essay.
Yes, and we also have computer science students who get admitted into MIT, and they're a great writer. Yeah, so you see, math teacher, English teacher, counselor aligned together now. You see, so pay attention to the critical writing at the beginning. Yeah, at the stage. Yeah.
Okay, last question, is 1150 a good score for an 8th grader after learning geometry?
Okay, so well, but okay, so probably we need more information on the breakdown of the scores. If the student got pretty low score in math, probably because the student haven't still have content gap for algebra, because the next math class the student should take is algebra 2. So usually we recommend the student starting preparing for SAT, at least on the math side, is that when you are at least close to finish algebra 2, because algebra 2 accounts for a large percentage in the test. Yeah.
Yeah. And a parent asked, if you only want to prepare for English part of SAT, should you take the SAT prep course or critical reading writing? Depends on which grade. Less than 9th grade, maybe critical reading writing. But if you're preparing to take the test, you'd better join the SAT prep class. Yeah. And what's the difference between the two SAT course you offered? I think we offered 2. One is like a SAT strategy bootcamp, which is SAT 8-day bootcamp. That include all the different question types, passage types. We divide it into different types, and we let them to focus on the one type, practice with more different kind of like passages. But for mock test, it's kind of like after you go through the 8 days, and you have to do the entire mock test as real, and find out the, where you still need to boost it or where you didn't, remembered. So the SAT mock test is more for real. The SAT, same thing. SAT mock test more for the real test. So actually step 1 should be the 8-day. Step 2 will be the mock test. So if you already high level, and which why you have to join tomorrow's mock test to evaluate your current to where you are, right? So you probably can join the mock test directly if you're high level. But if you are first test taker, first timer, you have to take the 8-day first, and then you can do mock test later. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to be clear, this weekend we're doing the mock tests on site in Cupertino, but the online mock tests are not yet available. But if you can sign up for the newsletter or just watch the website, and we will let everybody know when those do become available.
Yes. And yeah, Angela, I think you have many questions regarding the college prep stuff. Maybe you should, join more about our seminar. Yes, I'm a counselor, Dr. Counselor. So we help students to plan and prepare them for college and apply for the colleges. And that's what we do. So we have many suggestions, like the question you asked about a math competition. And you asked, is it better to do or not to do? I would say depends. Some students, they got a math competition. There are more competition than math. They have a business competition, finance competition, art competition, design competition, you name it. I have the whole entire list of competition, right? So, but the fittest one matter, fittest one counts. So you really have to know the students, the personality, the preference, their passion. It's just a very complicated way to analyze, diagnose the students in order to give them fittest the plan to let them find a direction. So that's what we do. And we're proud of that as well. So I think we can't really answer your question just to say any suggestion. If there is one suggestion we want to give is like, try to find a counselor that your kids love to work with and find the passion for the kids. Because what we're proud of at 7EDU is like, we never plan any kids the same way. So it's really a brain hurting job. Yeah, we have to be creative every single day with every different kids. We have to solve any problem that they have. And we have to design a personalized project for every kid, because nowadays, every kid, if they want to win this process, they have to be unique. But being unique is the hardest thing and the most challenging thing for every counselor. And at 7EDU, we as counselor, we just don't do the same thing. Yeah. So that's part of the thing. Every student for us is like, of us is like very unique. Yeah. We've heard SAT become virtual. I mean, you are very knowledgeable, actually. It's going to be different. Well, becoming virtual next year, yes. Different, yes, because paper and virtual rating is different. Well, if you took the language test before, like you probably know the difference. I would say it depends. Many students prefer the virtual reading, but a lot of kids, they prefer the paper reading because they still can underline, do something. They can just go back and forward, but like online testing was like different, but I think they'll get used to it. I think as they do that because they have to keep closing the test center because COVID is anyway, the AP already, went online last year and it's not very successful, but they're working on it. So eventually I think the test online, class online, the online gonna be the trend in the future. So even nowadays, a lot of high school, they teach the kids online. This kids just sitting in the classroom listening to the teacher teaching virtually. So I think it will be the trend. They will be fine. Yeah, that's the next generation thing. Don't worry about it.
One last question in the Q&A. Do you offer free 30-minute consulting? I'm assuming they mean about the SAT and ACT.
Yeah, you can talk to our counselor, general counselor Autumn, or yeah, just give us a call, email us, and any kind. But just remember to subscribe our email because we're going to offer a lot of useful information in the future. And just find us on the Facebook, YouTube, and follow us, and you will stay with the latest news about education to college prep. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just go through a couple of these slides real quick because I know we are over the hour.
They also ask like classes for coming ninth grade in LA. Well, LA students, we have students all over America, even in Canada, they just joined us, and China, like Hong Kong, Singapore, South Africa. We have students all over the world. You just join us. Yeah, you can join us anywhere.
Okay, hang on one second here.
You're welcome, Angela.
So if you can scan this QR code, it'll take you to our summer learning page, and you can see all the summer courses, including the 8-day boot camp for SAT coming up. There's one in June, July, and August. There's also SAT mock test strategy and review, which June was just talking about. Those are offered in July and August. And then the ACT mock test strategy and review is offered in July. If you don't have your phone handy and you can't scan that QR code, you can find these on our website. This is the QR code for our newsletter. So if you want to keep up with like free classes coming up, webinars, the summer schedule, the latest trends. We also recognize our students' achievements in the newsletter. So be sure, if you're not already subscribed to that, you can hit that code and subscribe to that. And you can also follow us on Facebook or YouTube. That code will take you there. You can also reach that on our website and find our Facebook and our YouTube and follow those. And I believe that's the last one. Anything else you need, please just contact Autumn. You can reach her at info@7edu.org. There's also a phone number on the website if you want to give her a call. And she can answer all your questions and help you get signed up and anything else you need. And that's it.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Dr. Yan. Thank you, everyone. Yes, we're going to offer mock tests online very soon, maybe next month. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.